The autumn winds swept across the quiet streets of Maplewood, carrying with it the crisp scent of falling leaves. Emma Parker walked slowly, her scarf wrapped tightly around her neck, though it did little to warm the emptiness she felt inside. The city moved around her in a blurb. People chatting with friends, couples laughing together, and children chasing one another in the park. But she felt like a ghost drifting through it all. Emma had always been someone who carried her heart quietly, a gentle soul who loved deeply but rarely shared it. She had friends and family who cared for her, yet there was a loneliness she couldn't quite explain. It wasn't the absence of people. It was the absence of a connection that made her feel truly seen. She paused outside a small, familiar coffee shop, the kind with foggy windows and the soft aroma of roasted beans spilling into the street. It had become her little sanctuary, a place where she could sit for hours with a notebook and pen, sketching ideas or writing thoughts she didn't dare say aloud. Today, however, she didn't bring her notebook. Today, she was simply here to watch, to breathe, to exist quietly in a world that often felt overwhelming. Inside, the shop was warm and bustling with morning energy. Emma hesitated at the door, momentarily overwhelmed by the laughter of strangers and the hiss of steaming milk. Then she took a deep breath and stepped inside, her boots squeaking softly on the wooden floor. She found her usual corner by the window, spot that let her watch the street outside without being watched herself. As she settled into the chair, Emma glanced around the room. Faces blurred past her, like clouds moving quickly across the sky. Everyone seemed to know exactly where they belonged except her. She felt the familiar pang of longing, a quiet ache for someone who could understand the silent corners of her heart. Her thoughts drifted to the life she had built carefully, one step at a time. She worked as a librarian, a job she loved because it gave her the kind of quiet moments she craved. Yet, even surrounded by books and stories, she sometimes felt invisible. People came in and out of her life like characters in a novel she couldn't touch, leaving her with the pages they never wrote, just as she was lost in her thoughts. The door chimed again, signaling a new customer. Emma looked up, expecting another hurried face or a familiar regular. And that's when she saw him, Liam Turner. He had an unassuming presence, with soft brown hair that fell slightly into his eyes and a gentle, almost shy smile. Something about him made Emma pause, though she didn't understand why. He carried a notebook under his arm and scanned the room before his gaze landed on the empty seat near her. For a brief moment, their eyes met. Emma felt an unexpected warmth, a flutter she couldn't quite name. She quickly looked away, pretending to adjust her scarf. But the memory of that glance lingered, tugging at her chest. Liam approached. And to Emma's surprise, he didn't sit anywhere else. Instead, he stopped a respectful distance away and asked softly, "Is this seat taken?" Emma shook her head, her voice quieter than she intended. "No, it's free." He smiled, a small, genuine smile that somehow seemed to ease the tight knot in her chest. Sitting down, he pulled out his notebook and opened it carefully, as if the pages contained the weight of the world. Emma found herself glancing at the words scribbled inside, though she didn't dare read them. They seemed personal, fragile, and deeply human, for the first time in a long while. Emma felt curiosity bloom inside her, a spark of interest, a gentle tug towards something unknown. She didn't know why, but there was something familiar in the way he seemed lost in thought. In the quiet way he observed the world around him. Minutes passed with a soft of conversation and clinking cups filling the air. Emma stole occasional glances at Liam, noting the small movements that made him seem almost unreal in his calmness, the way he tilted his head when thinking, the subtle furrow of his brow, the way his fingers lingered over the edge of his notebook. She didn't realize how much time had passed until her coffee arrived, steam curling in delicate spirals. She brought the cup to her lips, savoring the warmth, the comfort, the ordinary moment that suddenly felt extraordinary. Emma's heart felt full and empty all at once, full of curiosity and quiet hope, yet empty with the uncertainty of what this encounter might mean. Could a stranger truly change the rhythm of her days? Could a fleeting glance become something that mattered more than she ever expected? As Liam finally looked up from his notebook, their eyes met again. This time, he gave a small nod, almost as if acknowledging a secret that neither of them had spoken aloud yet. Emma took a deep breath, letting herself sit in the moment, feeling the possibility of something new, something gentle, something real. She didn't know what would happen next, but for the first time in a long while, she felt a flicker of hope. And in that quiet corner of the coffee shop, surrounded by the ordinary noise of life, Emma realized that sometimes the most powerful moments happen when you least expect them. Emma couldn't stop thinking about the man in the coffee shop. His presence lingered in her mind like a melody she couldn't quite place, gentle but insistent. She replayed the brief moments, the way he had smiled at her, the quiet curiosity in his eyes, the way he had sat down respectfully, almost as if he knew he didn't want to disturb her world but somehow wanted to be part of it. As she walked home that evening, the city streets bathed in golden light, memories of her past came flooding back. She remembered a time when life had seemed simpler, when the weight of loneliness hadn't settled so heavily on her heart. She had grown up in a small town not far from Maplewood, surrounded by family, friends, and laughter. But even then, she had always been the quiet one, observing more than speaking, feeling more than sharing. Her mind wandered to high school, to the afternoons she spent in the library, lost among books and stories. There was a boy named Ethan who had sat near her for months, exchanging shy glances and small smiles. They had shared countless afternoons quietly reading together, leaning over the same novels, exchanging handwritten notes full of thoughts they couldn't speak aloud. She remembered the warmth of those days and the gentle ache of unspoken feelings. For some reason, life had pulled them apart. College careers, different cities, it seemed that the timing had never been right. And though Emma had carried on, something had always remained unfulfilled. The longing for a connection that went beyond words, beyond fleeting moments, beyond comfort. Now, years later, that same ache stirred within her, quietly echoing in her chest. Liam had awakened something she thought she had buried: the curiosity to connect, to trust, to see someone in a way that went beyond the ordinary. Meanwhile, Liam's own thoughts traced back to his past, two moments of closeness that had never fully blossomed into love. He remembered his childhood friend, Clara, who had understood him without him saying a word. It's the kind of friendship that often brushed against something more tender but never quite crossed the line. Life had moved them apart, yet the memory of that bond had stayed with him, a reminder of what connection could feel like, and how rare it truly was. When Liam thought of Emma now, he realized the same feeling had returned unexpectedly. There was a softness in her gaze that mirrored the unspoken understanding he had once known. He wanted to know her story, to learn the small details that made her who she was, to understand the quiet spaces of her life that had never been shared with anyone else. That weekend, by sheer coincidence, or perhaps fate, Emma returned to the coffee shop. The autumn sunlight spilled through the windows, casting golden streaks across the wooden floor. Liam was already there, sitting in the same corner, notebook open, pen poised. Though his eyes occasionally lifted to the room as if expecting someone, Emma hesitated for a moment, her heart skipping. Their eyes met, and in that instant she felt something familiar, almost like a memory she hadn't realized she still carried. She approached slowly, feeling a mix of nervousness and anticipation. "Hi again," she said softly, her voice carrying a warmth she hadn't expected. Liam looked up and smiled, the corners of his eyes crinkling in a way that made her heart ache pleasantly. "I was hoping I'd see you here," he admitted. "I didn't expect to feel this way so quickly, but there's something about you that feels familiar and comforting." Emma smiled, remembering the old memories she had just revisited, the quiet longing that had always been part of her life. "I think I know what you mean," she said. "It's like meeting someone who understands without needing everything explained." For the next hour, they shared stories from their pasts, carefully chosen memories that revealed who they were without exposing too much. As though they were testing the waters, feeling for the rhythm of a connection neither had expected to find. They spoke of favorite childhood books, small traditions, and moments of joy they had tucked away. They laughed softly at shared awkwardnesses, and in the quiet pauses, they felt the growing sense of familiarity, as though they had known each other in another life. But beneath the laughter and stories, a gentle tension lingered. Emma couldn't help but think of her cautious heart. The part of her that had been hurt by timing, by absence, by life's unpredictability. Liam, too, carried the memory of connections that had almost been love, now tempered by patience and understanding. Neither of them wanted to rush, yet the quiet pull between them was undeniable as the sun dipped. The week after their second meeting at the coffee shop passed slowly, each day carrying its own quiet rhythm. Emma found herself thinking about Liam more often than she expected. Sometimes it was a fleeting thought, the curve of his smile, the way he had tilted his head while listening, the gentleness in his voice. Other times it was a persistent pull in her chest, a quiet reminder that life had a way of surprising her when she least expected it. She had almost convinced herself that, perhaps, these feelings were nothing more than curiosity, a momentary spark she should let fade. But fate had other plans. On a rainy Thursday afternoon, Emma was hurrying through the Maplewood Park, her umbrella offering little protection against the persistent drizzle. She had been running errands, trying to keep her mind busy, when she noticed a familiar figure standing near the fountain at the center of the park. It was Liam. He looked up, startled for just a moment. Then his face lit up with recognition. "Emma," he called softly, his voice carrying across the gentle hum of the rain. Emma's heart skipped a beat. She hadn't expected to see him here, not in the middle of a drizzly Thursday afternoon. Yet here he was, somehow appearing at the exact moment her thoughts had carried him to her mind. "Liam," she said, almost in a whisper, as if saying his name aloud confirmed that this coincidence was real. They moved toward each other slowly, both hesitant yet drawn by the same invisible thread that had brought them together before. When they finally met, there was a quiet moment of laughter, the kind that comes from relief, recognition, and the unspoken acknowledgement of fate. "I didn't expect to see you here," Emma admitted, her scarf dripping with raindrops. "Neither did I," Liam replied, brushing his hair back, water beading at the tips. "But I'm glad I did." The rain fell gently around them, but neither seemed to mind. It felt like a pause in the ordinary rush of life, a moment carved out just for them. As they walked side by side under a shared umbrella, conversation flowed easily. But beneath the words was something more profound. A sense of timing finally aligning. Emma found herself sharing little details she hadn't told him before, childhood memories of the park, the stories her grandmother had once told her about finding beauty in small moments, the quiet ache of longing she had carried through the years. Liam listened, truly listened, and each word felt like a bridge connecting the distance that had once existed between them. In turn, Liam spoke of his own quiet struggles and dreams, moments that had shaped him and moments he rarely shared with anyone. Emma noticed how carefully he chose his words, how much thought he gave to expressing himself honestly. She felt a deep respect for him, a sense that he was someone who could hold her thoughts without judgment, someone who could understand the spaces in her life that had always felt empty. As they reached the small bridge overlooking the fountain, Emma paused to watch the water ripple beneath the gentle rain. There was a serene beauty in the reflection of the city lights in the wet pavement, a quiet reminder that even ordinary things could feel extraordinary with the right perspective. "I'm glad we met," Liam said, breaking the comfortable silence. "It feels like, I don't know, like something I've been waiting for without even realizing it." Emma felt a warmth spread through her chest. She knew exactly what he meant. There was a familiarity in their connection, a sense of being seen and understood that made her feel safe, hopeful, and alive all at once. Yet beneath the joy of the moment, there was also a gentle tension. Emma's past experiences had taught her caution, and Liam's own history had shown him the fragility of timing. Both of them knew that even as the connection deepened, life could still interfere. But instead of fear, they felt curiosity about where this twist of fate could lead. about how two people quietly longing for connection could find each other in the most unexpected ways. The rain eased into a soft drizzle, and the park began to empty. Emma and Liam lingered on the bridge, reluctant to part, savoring the shared moment. Each glance, each small smile, carried the weight of unspoken emotions. The acknowledgement that what had begun as a fleeting spark might be growing into something more substantial. Finally, as the clouds began to break and a sliver of sunlight touched the wet leaves, Emma spoke. "I think maybe sometimes life gives you moments you can't predict. Moments that make you realize what you've been missing." Liam nodded, his eyes reflecting both understanding and hope. "Exactly. And I think maybe we're supposed to see where this goes, without rushing, without forcing it, just letting it unfold." Emma smiled, feeling a rare sense of peace. In the quiet aftermath of the rain, the city still sparkling in the puddles around them, she realized that sometimes the present held the most power. The twist of fate, the coincidence, the small events, they weren't accidents. They were opportunities. And as she walked home that evening, Emma carried with her a new sense of possibility, a renewed hope that perhaps the connection she and Liam were discovering could finally become the part of her life she had been longing for all along. The days following their unexpected meeting in the park felt suspended in a strange, beautiful way. Emma and Liam found themselves thinking of each other at odd moments while waiting for the bus, arranging books at the library, or simply sipping coffee in quiet moments alone. The connection was undeniable, yet neither had spoken aloud the feelings that were beginning to take shape. Emma felt the tug in her chest each time she recalled Liam's soft smile, the gentle way he listened, the way he seemed genuinely interested in even the smallest details of her life. She wanted to say something, anything that might bridge the quiet distance between curiosity and something deeper. But a hesitant voice in her mind whispered caution. What if she misread the signs? What if she risked hope only to be disappointed again? Liam, on the other hand, wrestled with his own uncertainty. He had felt the stirrings of something he hadn't felt in years, a sense of anticipation, of longing that was warm and thrilling, yet fragile. He wanted to reach out, to speak the words he had rehearsed in countless quiet moments. But each time he opened his mouth, the hesitation returned. He respected the slow rhythm of connection, knowing that rushing could shatter the fragile trust that was beginning to form. One rainy afternoon, they coincidentally crossed paths at the city's small art gallery. Emma was lingering over a painting of a lone tree in the autumn mist, and Liam appeared in the same corner, his presence gentle and unobtrusive. They exchanged a quiet nod, and for a moment neither moved. It was as if the gallery itself held its breath, giving them space to simply exist in the same moment. "You like it?" Liam asked finally, his voice soft. Emma nodded, glancing at him. "It's beautiful. There's something about the solitude in it that feels comforting, not lonely." Liam's eyes lingered on the painting, then flicked back to her. "I know what you mean. There's peace in quiet moments, in moments that let you notice the world and the people in it." The words hung in the air, light yet loaded with unspoken meaning. Emma felt her heart beat a little faster. She wanted to tell him that she noticed him, that she had noticed him long before this gallery visit. But the words felt too heavy for the moment, fragile in their weight. Instead, she offered a gentle smile, the kind that carried warmth without needing explanation. As they wandered through the gallery, Emma and Liam fell into a comfortable rhythm, speaking softly about art, colors, and the emotions each painting evoked. Yet beneath the conversation was a silent current, a connection stronger than the words they spoke. Every glance, every small laugh, every pause was filled with longing neither could yet name aloud. Later, they found themselves standing outside the gallery, the sky painted in soft hues of orange and pink as the sun set. The city was quiet, with only the distant hum of traffic and the occasional rustle of leaves. Neither wanted to say goodbye, yet neither dared to speak the truths lingering in their hearts. I should get going," Emma said finally, her voice tentative. Liam nodded, but his eyes remained fixed on her, as if searching for permission to speak the words he had held back. Yeah, I should too. They lingered a moment longer, the space between them filled with unspoken thoughts. Emma's mind raced with the things she wished she could say, how she felt seen, how she felt understood, how her heart had quietly opened in a way it hadn't for years. Liam's thoughts mirrored hers, filled with the same desire and hesitation as Emma walked away. She felt a quiet ache, a mix of hope and fear. She wanted to turn back, to reach for him, to speak aloud the feelings she had carried in silence. But she also knew that sometimes the most meaningful connections required patience, a slow unfolding rather than a hurried confession. Liam watched her disappear down the street. The soft sway of her coat and the gentle determination in her steps etched into his memory. He took a deep breath, reminding himself that unspoken truths were often the most delicate and precious. If handled with care, they could grow into something beautiful, something lasting. That evening, both Emma and Liam found themselves reflecting on the moments they had shared, realizing how rare it was to find someone who truly listened, who could occupy the same space without forcing words, yet still make each moment feel alive. They were both caught between fear and longing, between caution and hope, yet the connection had already planted roots in. The weekend arrived with a soft golden light that filtered through the Maplewood streets, casting a warmth over the city that seemed almost magical. Emma walked along the familiar path to the small cafe where she and Liam had first met. Her heart felt heavier than usual, not from fear, but from the anticipation that something was about to shift, feeling she could neither ignore nor explain when she entered. The cafe was quieter than usual. The aroma of fresh coffee filled the air, but it was Liam's presence that immediately drew her attention. He was sitting at their usual corner table, notebook open, yet his pen lay untouched. He looked up and their eyes met with a depth neither could ignore. Emma felt a flutter in her chest. This time the hesitation she usually carried seemed lighter, replaced by a quiet determination. She took a deep breath and approached, her steps slow but purposeful. "Hi," she said softly, sliding into the seat across from him. "Hi," Liam replied, his voice warm but tinged with something unspoken. He didn't look away. Instead, he leaned slightly forward, as if gathering courage from the shared quiet. For a few moments, they simply looked at each other, both aware of the delicate tension that hung in the space between them. Then Liam spoke, his voice low but steady. "Emma, I've been thinking a lot about us," he began. "About the days we've shared these past weeks, and about what I feel when I'm around you." Emma's breath caught. Her heart had been waiting for this, even if she hadn't admitted it to herself. She nodded slightly, encouraging him without words. "I've tried to understand it, to figure out if it's just a fleeting thing," Liam continued, "but I can't deny it anymore. You've opened something in me I didn't think could be opened. You've reminded me what it feels like to hope, to care, to notice someone in a way that matters." Emma felt tears prick at the corners of her eyes, not from sadness, but from the overwhelming weight of being truly seen. She had carried her feelings quietly for so long, and hearing him speak so openly made her feel as though a door had finally been unlocked in her heart. I feel the same," she admitted, her voice trembling slightly. "I've been afraid, unsure if I should say anything, but when I'm with you, I feel like I can breathe, like I'm allowed to feel, to hope, to care." A soft silence fell between them, filled only with the gentle clinking of cups and the distant murmur of the cafe. It was a silence that no longer felt empty. It was full of possibility, full of acknowledgement, full of the unspoken truth that had lingered too long. Liam reached across the table, hesitating for only a moment before brushing his fingers lightly against hers. The simple gesture spoke volumes, trust, warmth, and a promise of sincerity. Emma's hand met his, and in that small touch, all the hesitation, all the fear, and all the unspoken longing seemed to melt away. "I've been careful with my words," Liam said softly, "because I didn't want to rush anything, didn't want to scare you. But I also couldn't keep it to myself any longer. You matter to me, Emma, more than I expected, more than I thought I could feel. Emma felt her heart swell with emotion. "You matter to me too," she whispered. "I've been afraid of feeling too much, of hoping for something that might not last. But I think this is real. I think we're meant to be here like this, right now." They sat in silence for a few moments, letting the words sink in. Outside, the sun dipped lower, casting a warm glow through the windows and painting the cafe in shades of gold. It felt like the world had paused for them, allowing this truth to settle gently between their hearts. Finally, Liam smiled, a quiet, genuine smile that reached his eyes and softened every line of hesitation he had carried. "I think this is the beginning of something we've both been waiting for, even if we didn't know it," he said. Emma returned the smile, feeling a rare sense of clarity and peace. "Yes, I think it is," she said, "and I'm ready to see where it goes." In that moment, the turning point arrived, not through grand gestures or dramatic declarations, but through honesty, courage, and the simple act of speaking the truth that had been held quietly in their hearts. The walls of hesitation crumbled, leaving behind only connection, understanding, and the gentle promise of something beautiful. They lingered for a while longer, talking softly about small dreams, shared hopes, and the little ways they had already begun to fit into each other's lives. Every word, every glance, every gentle smile deepened the bond that had been quietly forming for weeks. As Emma finally stood to leave, she felt a lightness she hadn't known in years. Liam walked her to the door, their hands brushing lightly as they exchanged a final look, a look full of understanding, anticipation, and the quiet joy of hearts aligned. Sometimes the hardest step is simply saying the truth. And when the truth is finally spoken, changes everything. The weeks that followed felt like a gentle unfolding of something Emma and Liam had both been waiting for, though neither could have put it into words until now. Their connection, once hesitant and unspoken, had blossomed into a quiet, comforting rhythm, a partnership built on patience, honesty, and the kind of understanding that made even ordinary days feel extraordinary. They met often at the small cafe, sometimes walking together through Maplewood Park, sometimes exploring little corners of the city that felt intimate and private. Each meeting was simple but meaningful, shared laughter over a cup of coffee, quiet reflections while watching the sunset. The ease of conversation that never felt forced. Emma discovered that she could speak freely with Liam, share her dreams, her small fears, and even the memories she had tucked away for years. And Liam, in turn, opened his heart in ways he hadn't allowed himself to before. He shared stories of moments that had shaped him, the subtle joys and quiet struggles, knowing that Emma would listen with empathy and understanding. One crisp autumn afternoon, they found themselves sitting together on a bench overlooking the river. The leaves had turned golden and red, drifting slowly to the ground like delicate reminders of the passing seasons. They watched the water ripple beneath the soft light, and for a while neither spoke. Words weren't needed. The silence was full of connection, of trust, and of the gentle affirmation that they were exactly where they belonged. Finally, Emma spoke, her voice soft but certain. "I never imagined I'd find someone who understands me like this. Someone who notices the small things, the quiet moments, the parts of me I usually keep hidden." Liam smiled, turning to face her fully. "I feel the same way. Meeting you, it's changed everything. I feel like I can be myself, and I've never felt that with anyone else." A comfortable pause followed, filled with the kind of shared understanding that comes only from truly seeing one another. Then, without hesitation, Liam reached out and gently took Emma's hand. She let him, feeling warmth spread through her heart. It was a simple gesture, but it spoke volumes. Trust, care, and the promise of being present for each other. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. Their bond deepened naturally, without rushing, without drama, only the gentle growth of two hearts learning to align. They celebrated small joys together, supported each other through challenges, and learned the quiet art of companionship. Every laugh, every shared glance, every thoughtful gesture strengthened the connection that had once been unspoken but was now unmistakably real. One evening, As the city lights twinkled across the river, Emma and Liam paused on the bridge where they had first truly felt the spark of connection. The air was crisp, carrying the scent of falling leaves and the faint promise of winter. Emma looked at Liam, her eyes reflecting the soft glow of the streetlights. "I'm grateful for you," she said simply. "For this. For everything." Liam smiled, squeezing her hand gently. "And I'm grateful for you. For the patience, the laughter, the quiet moments, and the unspoken ones, too. Meeting you, it's the best thing that's ever happened to me." They stood together in comfortable silence, feeling the shared rhythm of their hearts. The subtle understanding that love isn't always loud or dramatic, it's in the small, steadfast ways to people care for one another. They didn't need grand gestures or declarations. Their presence was enough. Their honesty and trust a foundation for something lasting as they walked home that evening. Side by side, Emma felt a sense of peace she hadn't known in years. She realized that the longing she had carried for so long had found its answer not in perfection, but in connection, understanding, and the quiet courage to speak and hear the truth of the heart. And Liam, walking beside her, knew the same. The twist of fate, the hesitant glances, the unspoken truths, all of it had led them here, to a place of quiet joy, mutual respect, and a love that felt timeless in its simplicity. Sometimes life's most extraordinary moments come quietly, in small gestures, honest words, and the courage to trust someone with your heart. Emma looked at Liam, smiled, and whispered, "I'm glad we found each other." "I'm glad too," he replied. Matching her smile, together, they continued walking, their hands intertwined, their hearts aligned, ready to face whatever the future held, not with fear, but with hope, companionship, and the gentle certainty that they had finally found the connection they had been waiting for all along.